Welcome to the latest Our Coaching Network podcast. I think this is episode 3 of 2026. Special edition today, a little outside the norm, but exciting because both these guys have rich backgrounds in football. We are joined by Sam Curtis and Brayden Coombs of Teamworks. Sam is the director of football products, and Brayden is the director of NFL partnerships. I might have gotten Sam's title slightly wrong. He pretty much runs Teamworks, is what the way it's been at all of the AFCA gatherings. And Brayden has a name that is synonymous with football in Ohio. We appreciate both you guys joining us here on our coaching network.
We
Happy to be
appreciate it too,
here.
man. Thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive right into the fact that you're both in the football world. You've been in the football world for Sam, I've known about 15 years. Brayden, I've met your dad through the years. So you guys have rich, deep backgrounds in both college and NFL football. Now you've switched sides of the stream. I want to start with Brayden. Brayden, can we talk first about your journey and what made you go from NFL coach to director of NFL partnerships for Teamworks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep it brief, John, and just let me know if you want me to elaborate anywhere. But I coached in the NFL for 11 seasons. I started out with the Cincinnati Bengals. I was on Marvin Lewis' staff. Did a little bit of everything coming up. Started my way at the very, very bottom, getting coffee and drawing practice cards and those type of things, and worked my way up through the organization little by little. Did some advanced scouting, worked with the secondary, worked with the wide receivers. And about halfway through that time, got involved pretty heavily with our special teams. One of the best coordinators in the NFL, Darren Simmons, had a chance to be attached to his hip and learn from him. We had a pretty small staff when Marvin was there, so I was working with the receivers and the special teams both at the same time. It was a great education for me as a coach, getting to draw from all different parts of the staff, including doing a lot of scouting stuff with the Bengals as well. So it was kind of got my PhD across the board there. And then when we hired Zach, was fortunate enough to stay on staff there, but the staff grew significantly. My focus went solely into special teams. And that was when I really kind of got my next level education in that phase of the game, learning all the nuances, getting to be involved with the roster management, and those type of things. And then I was fortunate enough after 1 year with Zach and his staff, had the opportunity to interview with Matt Patricia, and went up and joined the Detroit Lions for the season of 2020. I was the special teams coordinator there. So obviously, that was a great opportunity for me to take on more of a leadership role and also to kind of branch out and work with a staff that had a completely different way of operating, different way of doing things. So I got to Detroit in late January, and then as we all remember probably too well, COVID hit that March. So I was trying to implement an entire new program, in a whole phase of the game, a new culture, basically all virtual. I remember working out, quote unquote, working out punters for the draft over Zoom and all the unconventional things that we had to do back in 2020. And coincidentally enough, Teamworks was really became our lifeblood there with the Lions when we had to try to communicate with people across the country and not being able to work remotely and try to communicate with 100 plus players and staff. So that was really when I had my first exposure to our company. Fast forward through the year, obviously we didn't have a great season in 2020. Special teams did a great job, but as you all know, it goes with the staff, and so we were let go end of the year. I was in sort of a fortunate situation as someone who had just joined the staff and signed a 3-year contract, so I had some time left. And I had some opportunities right after the season, but again, with my family just having, my kids had just gone back to in-person school. So it was one of those situations where I was either going to uproot them again and move somewhere new, or I was going to go by myself and leave them behind. And neither of those really seemed like a great option for where my family was at that time. So I decided to take that year, and just spend time with them, and had every intention at that point of getting back into it a year later. And that was really, the first time in my life where I had a chance to sit back and just kind of evaluate what was important to myself. I'd been coaching for 5 years before I had my first child. Didn't really know life any differently. And so over the course of that year, in a nutshell, was really when I decided to explore some other opportunities. Um, Really, the first thing that we decided at that time was where we wanted to be. Had come to know and love Nashville, so decided to put roots down here. I got into some private business ownership things. I bought a company in 2022, and I had been doing that up until recently. And this opportunity with Teamworks kind of matriculated itself. It just seemed like a God thing, really too good to be true. Gave me an opportunity to get back involved with football, back around the game I love, and with massive network of people that I enjoy working with without taking on 120 hours a week. And so as explored the opportunity with the company, it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that it was something that I wanted to do. So I signed on board with Sambo and the rest of the team right around Labor Day, right as the season kicked off, and we've been ripping and running ever since.
Sam, we'll pivot to you again. This is the Our Coaching Network podcast, joined by a couple of executives from Teamworks, Brayden Coombs and Sam Curtis. Sam, you climbed the long way up the ladder into Teamworks. You logged a lot of thankless hours. I guess you probably got Butch Jones some coffee along the way, much like Brayden was a servant leader early in his days. What's your journey, and what made you make the transition to Teamworks, and how much were you using Teamworks when you first started versus how ubiquitous was it by the time you exited college football to join the Teamworks staff?
Yeah, great question. Well, first, Brice, appreciate you guys having us on, and this is actually my first podcast, so nobody better to do it with than you, the one and only John Brice. But I don't know how I follow up Braden there with his background and things, but as you know, Brice, I'm from a very, very small town in Northwest Tennessee, small town, South Fulton, about 3,000 people in total. Had the opportunity to play offensive line at UT Martin for Coach Jason Simpson, who's golly been there since '06. Probably has to be one of the longest tenured coaches in college football, at least Division One, right? But
Yes.
from there, kind of knew I wanted to be involved in sports, in football. Knew I didn't want to coach. Knew I didn't want to go, the high school route and be a PE teacher and a coach. So had the opportunity to go to Tennessee and go to grad school there, and got a position within football as a football operations graduate assistant. And yeah, spent about 14 months there with Coach Jones and Chris Bagnardi and Jake Kirkendall and the whole crew, and had a blast. Learned a lot in a very short amount of time. I played FCS football, right? So the hotels and the really just the I guess the depth in which we operate at a SEC level was vastly different, right? We'd have snack at a UT Martin. It was just like a 5 gallon jug of peanut butter and jelly and 20 loaves of bread. And they said, "Hey, if you're hungry, make one," right? And now we're serving up all this food and stuff. And from there, just much like any other coach or any other staff member in college football, just kind of shook as many hands as I could and built as many relationships as I could, and continually had the opportunity to make changes and move up the ladder, and went from Tennessee to Georgia with Coach Smart, and did that for a little bit. Ended up shaking the right hand and meeting the right person, and got an opportunity to go out to Los Angeles to USC, as assistant director of football operations. So as you can imagine, think about this kid that has never been west of Texas in his life, all of a sudden moves from Martin, Tennessee to Knoxville, Tennessee to Athens, Georgia. Then here we go, Beverly Hillbillies out to Los Angeles. So I got indoctrined into West Coast big city very, very quickly, right? I'd never had raw fish. I'd never eaten really many vegetables outside of like green beans and anything that you find in the South, right? Especially nothing that didn't have at least a stick of butter in it and had been cooked for multiple hours, preferably in a crock pot. So that was a great experience for me. And over the years, kind of moved up to director of football operations, took on a lot of new roles. Was the NFL liaison for 2 seasons, so had a lot of opportunity to meet NFL personnel, meet NFL scouts. At the time, John Robinson was the GM of the Tennessee Titans, and he's actually from Union City, Tennessee, which is a slightly larger town than where I'm from, but about 10 minutes away. So we had a nice funny interaction when he came out to evaluate Sam Darnold and some of our other players back in the day. Not too frequently that do you find two Northwest Tennessee guys in Los Angeles, California. So that was a funny interaction that we had from that standpoint. But really from there, Coach Norvell took the Florida State job, and through our connection, Brice, Brayden Phillips, had the opportunity. I said, hey, my wife and I want to start a family, and across the country in Los Angeles probably isn't that right fit. So had the opportunity to join Coach Silverfield at Memphis as the director of football operations, and really throughout this time when I was at USC, and really what started at Tennessee. I am a younger person in this career path, right? And when I got to Tennessee, they had Teamworks. I had never heard of it, didn't know what it was. But I tell people all the time, my journey as an ops person, I wasn't using a ton of Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and things like that. I started my career and learned how to be an ops guy, and really how to scale my job through Teamworks because that's all I knew from the get-go, right? It wasn't something I transitioned to down the road, and that was kind of my first interaction. And then fast forward to USC. Teamworks had put together a little bit of a leadership committee with myself, Sherrod Everett. I believe he was at Oregon at the time, now at Memphis. Jason Sykes, who was at San Diego State at the time. Cody Seda was at Northwestern, now with the Washington Commanders. There were several of us that came to Durham for kind of like a 2 day on site. Some of it was learning, some of it was helping them kind of develop the next evolution of Teamworks, really just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, seeing what stuck, seeing what our ideas were and what our needs were and things like that. So I remember walking in there in 2018 thinking like, man, this is fresh off of what was it? The Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn movie, The Internship, when they went to Google, right? Like that's what I felt
Yeah.
like walking into Teamworks, right? It's like a mini Google.
Yeah.
And that was really the first time that I had heard Zach Maritas, our founder and CEO, kind of talk about the vision of Teamworks. At the time, Teamworks was a product, right? It was our communication, our scheduling, our travel. It was a product, right? And hearing his vision of at some point in the future, I want to build a sports tech ecosystem, right? That
Yeah.
operating system for sport with all of these integrated solutions and things. And I remember walking out of there and thinking, man, that's sounds pretty cool, right? And yeah, fast forward a few years later. I guess originally, Brice, you asked like, why did I transition out of football, right? And I've told people this story because it's real and it's really my full intent. But once we got to Memphis, my wife got pregnant, right? And as you all know, things change when little ones come into the picture, and I quickly realized, like, hey, to be the type of dad that I want to be, and I'm a workaholic. I think anybody in football probably is a workaholic. I knew that I had to make a transition, and I don't know if Zach Maritas had my phones tapped or what was going on, but pretty quickly after that, I got a phone call from Zach Maritas and said that they were looking for a football guy to join Teamworks and really just speak that football language to football staffs and somebody that has used the product and things like that. And fast forward a couple months, and I joined Teamworks back in, golly, it'll be almost 5 years, May of 2021. So coming up on 5 years anniversary here at Teamworks. But that was really the transition point, and really, I felt like that was a perfect transition to go from in football to still being around football and talking the language and just not having to pick up a move every 3 years and deal with all the things that guys are dealing with on a daily basis.
Awesome. Great insight there. Again, as we visit with Sam Curtis and Brayden Coombs here on the Our Coaching Network podcast, I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com. Brayden, I want to kick it back to you. Obviously, you grew up around football. Your dad, a legendary high school head coach. He's been a big time college assistant coach for Brian Kelly at Ohio State under Ryan Day in the NFL. He's a Hamilton County Hall of Famer, which coincidentally, my father grew up in Hamilton County, Ohio. My grandmother actually taught for a while at the University of Cincinnati. So shout out to Hamilton County there, Brayden. How much have you growing up around the game, playing the game, working in the game? How much does that help you serve NFL people today? And expound on what you do with NFL teams a little bit, if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I appreciate the kind words about my dad. I think getting to be just around him personally and see how he goes about his business. The cool thing about his journey is it all happened organically. He was never working phones. He was never looking to leave Coleraine High School, just like he was never looking to leave the University of Cincinnati. And I think his hard work and his gifts were recognized just very naturally. So that it's been cool to see, and I think I tried to always keep that in the back of my mind. I was very fortunate coming up through the NFL, getting to work with the amount of people I did. I think with the Bengals alone, I worked with five guys who went on to become NFL head coaches, and then same thing again in Detroit with Ben Johnson, and just seeing guys do it the right way and seeing how that's reflected in their success. So I like to think that I've taken a little bit from each of those guys along the way, and generally the things that make guys successful football coaches make people successful across many industries. And so just trying to take those lessons with me, I think has been invaluable. As far as it pertains to my transition here, I think as I was going through the process with Teamworks and trying to decide if it was a good fit and something that I wanted to do, I think there was really two things that I brought to the table that have added value to our team. Obviously, the first one that's pretty clear as day is just bringing a network and bringing relationships that you build over 12 years in pro football and working with guys in college football and being able to pick up the phone and call people and say, hey, this is something you need to know about, or I'd love to get your thoughts on how this could be better. So I think that was the first part of it. And then the second part was, I think we didn't even necessarily realize until we got into it a little bit further, but just bringing a perspective from someone on the inside of the building. As we're in this major transition that really, coincided with around the timing of when I came on board of going from what was this communications and operations company, which obviously very, very important, critical to large organizations, but that's now just one part of what we're doing. And I think, our goal towards the end of 2025 and especially moving through this year is to become the absolute best at what we do and invaluable to college organizations and pro organizations in football. We want to be known as a football company. And so me being able to bring my perspective of, hey, this is great what you guys built. Here's a real life application of how a team is going to use this, how this is going to help them on their day to day. And here's maybe one thing we could do to make it a little bit better or to make it a little bit more effective or to kind of fit into the structure of what they're already doing. And so I like to think that perspective and being able to be the conduit between, we have the best team in the world when it comes to our products. I get to work with brilliant, brilliant people with, doctorates from MIT and Harvard. They're outstanding. My role is really just to kind of be the go-between our team and the teams that we're working with in the NFL, and to kind of bridge that gap of communication. I like to think we're getting to a place where some of it can happen without even the conversation, where I just learn what our partners are looking for, where they're looking to go, and how we can most effectively help them get there. So it's been a really cool role. I think, my boss and most of our leadership at Teamworks would tell you we had no idea what to expect of this role. We kind of all came on knowing that there was a need for somebody and that there was value to be had in my chair, but we didn't know what it was going to look like or how it was going to evolve. And I think, like anything else, that's been invigorating for all of us to figure it out as we go, continue to figure it out as we go. I've been to every NFL event over the last month, Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, getting ready obviously for the Combine, Super Bowl. And it's the first time that we're doing it as a team and we're figuring it all out on the run and taking notes of how we can do it better next year. But to me, that's the exciting part of this, man, is fast pace, trying to outpace our competition and trying to find new ways to help coaches, help front office execs. We are building this very much with our partners, not, taking something out of a lab and going to sell it to them. We're all working together, and that's been my favorite part of it. And I'm really excited to see where it continues to go.
I want to switch back to Sam now as we visit here on the Our Coaching Network podcast with Teamworks executives Brayden Coombs and Sam Curtis. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com. I hesitate to divulge this part, although I'm also not naive enough to think that just everybody's tuning into this podcast as soon as it drops. But the most beneficial thing I do on a year-to-year basis is go to the Director of Football Ops Conference, typically in Frisco, Dallas every year. We've done it together, Sam, in Houston. I think this year it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale. I learn more. I get more out of that 48 to 72 hours in Central Dallas or Central Texas or wherever that helps me the rest of the year than I do anything else. So I bring that up to ask you, how much have you seen it evolve? Like when I was going a few years ago, it was about the day to day. How could you make communications better in the Teamworks app to help better serve the players? Now you're helping guys get NIL payments. You're helping do everything. Take us inside the world of how much Teamworks has expanded to where it truly is the central nervous system. And I want to say all 136 FBS football programs. I think when I talked to you maybe in August, Teamworks had just added every single FCS program. You're in the NHL, you're in the NBA, you're in MLS, you have every single NFL franchise.
Yeah, it has evolved greatly, right? And I know Brayden kind of touched on it that several years ago, even when I started, we were known as the operations person tool, right? Now, as you look across our product offerings and how integrated they are, and they all communicate and send information across multiple systems and things like that. It is crazy being a part of that journey. But Brayden also touched on it as well. We were built by coaches and athletes for coaches and athletes, right? And that hasn't been in a silo, right? We've ventured out into multiple different areas where you touched on it, right? NIL, rev share, budgeting. We also have to pay those players, right? Once we budget, so we have our wallet system that our digital payment processing system that ties directly to the players and pays them instantly, right? You look at our performance category, whether it's our strength and conditioning product, it's our EMR and AMS systems, it's our nutrition system, really anything from an athletic training, strength and conditioning, dietitian area, we cover that as well. Academics, compliance, ticketing, you name it, right? We do all of that. And in those meetings, it's interesting you brought that up because I remember going back in, golly, 2015, 2016, and there might be 50, 60 people in the room, right? And we're all dealing with the same problems about buses and planes and hotels and what vendor did you use over here. And now kind of speaks to the evolution of college athletics in general. But now we're going to those meetings and we're talking tech, we're talking real life scenarios about rev share and how people are going to make ends meet and what we're doing and legislation that could be coming down, but we don't know if it's going to come down. But if it does, what are the 10 different areas that we need to talk about and plan for? Because as ops people, right, we're not just a plan A and that's going to work, right? We're plan A, plan B, plan C, sometimes even plan D, right? If we get down that far, you know what I mean? So the evolution has been great to be a part of and really build with our partners in that space. Because at the end of the day, we can have all these great ideas and we can go build all these things, but if they're not the right things that solve problems, not just today, but even future looking, that I think that's one of the greatest things that Zach Maritas and our leadership team is really good at is being proactive and anticipating things that are on the horizon. I mean, you think back to when I mentioned Teamworks being a product and we acquired Influencer, right? That was
Right.
a year and a half before NIL even came into the equation, but Zach knew it was coming. He didn't know when, but he knew it was coming, right? So being a part of that story and also building and adapting and acquiring other companies to fill the voids where our customers need, not just in college, but you named it, right? MLB, MLS, La Liga, EPL over in Europe, you name it, right? We have over 7,000 teams globally, and
Wow.
it's crazy to be a part of it.
I want to ask both you guys, one of your newer elements, I got to witness it firsthand in August at the Personnel Symposium in Nashville, is that you've dived into analytics in the football space. And since you both have football backgrounds, especially with Braden coaching, but Sam, you were tucked in that corner on Rocky Top with Matt Wilson and Bob Weldon and Trey Johnson and all those guys. I know you've seen your share of film. What distinguishes the Teamworks Analytics program? What are some of the things that you've seen with it as you've rolled it out here over the past year? And Braden, if you could just provide some insight as well, because you've seen it firsthand how much more teams at all levels, but it's trickled down to college, especially, are using the analytics to study players and to try and find the next hidden gem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, John. I think that's, everything we're doing is important, but that's definitely at the top of my mind every morning when I wake up is our coaching and our personnel platforms. Sam touched on as he was talking about the college programs and the NIL and the rev share and the things that we're doing with college athletes, and that's not even part of my world, right? In the NFL, those things don't exist. So my focus is on our performance suite and our football suite. And the football suite is our what are we doing for scouts What are we doing for coaches? And so I'll share an anecdote just going back to my personal decision-making process when I was deciding to come on board was, for me, anytime I'm making a big decision in anything, but especially in business, the things that are important are the people and the products. So as I got to meet our team, very quickly realized that this is a team full of A players. It's no different than walking into an elite sports organization. I'm surrounded by people every day who push me to get better just to keep up. We got a great team, so that was easy for me to see. With the product, it wasn't something that I took lightly. That hey, if I'm going to be picking up the phone to call a friend of mine and say, hey, sight unseen, you just got to trust me on this. This is something you need. For me to make that phone call, I had to get to a place where I was beyond a shadow of a doubt in my own belief in the product. So as I learned more about it, obviously the football side of things was number one priority. I think our leadership's done a tremendous job of building that silo out, both through our own development and then of course through some incredible acquisitions that we made. Starting with a company named Zealous Analytics, which backs our analytics site now. One that'll be very familiar to most coaches would be Telemetry Sports, which was acquired just before I came on, and then most recently a company called Sports Logic, which does tracking data as well. And what we've done is been able to bring those into one home,
Yeah.
combine their abilities, which were already, they're great platforms on their own, but as we get them integrated and get them working together, it's like, you're building out the Marvel superhero team, right? And so as I went through it, in my own decision-making process, I'm like any other coach. Data and metrics sound great, but do they prove themselves out? There's a healthy amount of paranoia, especially amongst coaches, right? Maybe not as much with scouts, but hey, I trust my eye. I trust what I know what I'm watching on film. Don't tell me, what somebody's change of direction ability is based on some math formula. So I went into it with that lens, and then I think as I saw it all, when the light bulb went off for me, and when I realized the game was changing, is when I was able to see through our combination of our Zealous platform, which is now personnel, and our telemetry platform, which is our coaching platform. When I saw the integrations being developed, and this is early on in the process, but where I could now go and look at this data metric. Let's say it's change of direction, or let's say it's throw accuracy, whatever you want. We got about a dozen for every position on the field, right? But now, not only can I see this player's metric, but when I click on this player's metric, it goes directly to the film. And as a coach, that was when, for me, it was like, okay, why would you not want to be using this? Because you're not taking our word for it. We're providing you with the information, and what we're doing is we're giving you more information in a much more efficient time span. And then you go cross-check it with your own eyeballs as you watch the tape, which we put the cut up together for you of whatever you're trying to watch. So that was when I kind of moved past, okay, this isn't for computer dorks, right? This isn't for scientists. This is a tool for football scouts and football coaches to maximize the ability that they have that they've built a career off of. And I think almost probably to 100% across the board, when we show it to guys, the initial reaction is somewhere between jaw dropping and holy, right? Because they
Yeah.
can't, they can't believe that not only is this something that's coming, but this is something that they have access to right now. It's a game changer. It's going to change quality control coaches' lives, especially. Just the time efficiencies and the abundance of information that guys have at the tip of their fingers on their cell phone when they're on the bus. It's incredible. And so, we're really excited to keep rolling it out and keep showing it to guys who haven't gotten on board yet.
Sam, as we pivot to you again, Sam Curtis and Brayden Coombs from Teamworks. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. At that August event, Sam, you were briefly on stage. You had Will Redmond up there. You had some other executives up there with the demonstration. And Brayden used the Marvel Avengers comparison. I was going to go like the X-Men amalgamation there because you have synergized multiple services into one powerhouse service. But college football's never been more transient. Never, it's more free flowing right now than any pro league anywhere. I wonder what your feedback has been, maybe what you really liked about the product as you launched it for college people, and maybe how it's continued to evolve in the 6 to 7 months since that time when it really took off there in August in Nashville.
Yeah, absolutely. After the symposium, when we really came to market with this new vision and where we were going, one of the things that we heard all the time at the symposium was time and money, right? These kids are hitting the transfer portal. You have hours, if not a day, maybe 2 days tops to potentially get them on board with your program, right? But then on top of that, the money aspect, you have to ensure that you are spending money wisely, right? In this world that we've created where guys can leave every single year, right? We all see it. Guys are on their fifth, sixth, seventh year, but also fifth, sixth, seventh team, right? So that investment that you're making, there has to be that ROI, right? And you have to make sure that you're not just throwing money in the wind. And we have to make sure that we are providing not just the best data, right, but objective data. Okay, it's not subjective. It's not somebody grading film. It is science. And when we were on there, Brice, you probably remember Will Redmond. He had this great quote where he said, "The thing I love about this platform is you're combining the art and the science, right? The art of evaluating the Matt Wilsons of the world that close my door, let's watch film for 7 hours and look through these 200 guys, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Your process is your process. But when it's talking about the transfer portal, you got 2 or 3 weeks to go through, I mean, whatever the stat was, 2, 3, 4,000 kids.
Right.
Time is of the essence, but then also accurate, the best data that you can get that's objective to where folks can really dwindle down the 2, 3,000 kids down to who are the 100 that we're targeting
Right.
for the 5, 6, 7 positions that we need. That's that efficiency aspect that we talked about. And really through the fall, we were able to essentially let 21, 22 teams beta test the product. And it was
Okay.
twofold, right? This is a new space for us and a new market and a new product that people aren't familiar with. So it allowed them to kind of test drive it, right? I say this all the time, Bryce. You wouldn't buy a house without looking at it. You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it, right? So it enabled them to use it and to apply it towards that transfer portal. It also allowed us to get that feedback, right? The product was really, really, really good. We were able to get that feedback, and we had an entire team of engineers. Their full dedication from September through December was building and making things and tweaks and adding in new functionality. So we added all these new features through the fall. People used it for the transfer portal. Now that we're in the spring, we're kind of having that same concept with our coaching platform and getting multiple different teams on board, whether it's the Penn States of the world, the Baylors of the world, Nebraska's, Pitt, Ohio State, you name it, right? All of those people, and we're going to do the same exact thing with coaching because again, our sole mission is not just to build tech and give it to you, right? Our sole purpose is to build tech that is going to solve problems, and we don't know what problems are out there unless we get feedback. Right. So it's been fun to be a part of. And I probably in 5 years since being at Teamworks, coaching and player personnel is probably the most fired up I've been about any product because it is an engine that does not exist today in really college sports, but really NFL as well. So seeing these guys light up when we hop on calls and even coaches, head coaches, coordinators, they're just like, man, where has this been? Right. So it's exciting to be a part of it.
Shout out Matt Wilson, the great IU general manager, the Teamworks Football Scoop general manager of the year for the national champion Indiana Hoosiers. Brayden, we'll get back to you in just a moment. Sam, I want to follow up there. I saw you post a picture recently with new Memphis head coach Charles Huff. Huff Daddy's a real one. He's a really good friend, a great guy who's welcomed me into his program. But what are your days like right now? What are you doing specifically for Teamworks in this time of the year where the portal's over, the playoffs are finally over. There's a little bit more roster stability, even though there's still thousands of guys in the portal. And then what are you hearing from the college people that you deal with that they want next or that they believe is next on the horizon?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start with my day to day, Bryce, it kind of feels like I was when I was in football, right? Especially as an ops guy. Other duties is assigned. Every day is a new adventure. Every day is a new challenge, different things going on. So, right in this new role in this football team that we've created at Teamworks, we're all moving towards the same goal. We're all moving 1,000 miles an hour and figuring it out. We've hired a bunch of new people, which has been fun, and onboarding those guys and getting them learning and able to kind of function on their own and go through that. And when I do get to go to campuses, and luckily I live in Memphis, so it's easy to kind of zip over and meet with Coach Huff for a little bit and meet with GM and assistant GM and chief of staff, Memphis football COO Sherrod Everett, those
Right.
type of guys to really give some candid feedback, right? And get some candid feedback on some certain things that are going on and kind of a peek under the hood. And obviously, I was the DFO at Memphis, so being able to kind of give them some insider baseball knowledge, not to drop a baseball concept on a football podcast, but here we
Oh,
are, right?
always welcome.
To be able to kind
Home
of help
run.
them with some folks in the community and some different things and some processes that go on in different areas has been fun. But really, as we continue to go, people understand what we're doing, right? And we have a lot of different products, and I think our future is connecting all of those, right? Whether it's Teamworks Recruiting, which houses your high school recruits and the prospects and your camps and all that information. How can we tie those into Teamworks Coaching and Player Personnel and GM and Wallet and a lot of our other platforms to really give not just college football teams, but specifically the coaching staffs and the player personnel staffs, that holistic operating system for them, right? For years and years and years, personnel staffs have had multiple different vendors and subscriptions and different things, and they take information from here and they take this thing over there and this niche thing and this product over there, and all of a sudden they got 9, 10, 11 different tabs open on their computer every day, and they're just piecing together different things. How can we create that ecosystem for college football to where you go to one spot and all of our products talk to each other? There's integrations. You can go switch from one thing to another, and all that information free flows and stored in one spot to make those decisions faster and be more organized. Because again, information is key, and having all of that in one spot so that you can make that split-second decision when the portal's going on or whatever's happening, right? Is the greatest. So that's what we're kind of building towards in the future over the next few months, is integrating all of our player personnel and coaching aspects to kind of give that holistic operating system for those staffs.
Brayden, the NFL Combine opens next week. I'm sure you've been previously as a member of NFL coaching staffs. How will you approach it as the head of NFL on development for Teamworks, and kind of what is your mission field starting next week in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think it's probably our biggest in-person week on the calendar for as far as the NFL goes. We've been gearing up for it now for about 6 weeks. We've got a lot of exciting things planned. We're meeting with every team at least once while we're there. We've got an evening at Prime 47 where we're going to have people from every team there. It should be a great opportunity for people to network and really just build relationships. You know, a big part of this first 6 weeks of the off season for me has been the people side of it. As you know, that the season just ended, but for us, the season was kind of the slow period. You know, guys aren't taking a whole lot of meetings outside of game prep during the season. So for us, it's just been that was strategic building and mapping out, and then once the season ended is really when we've kind of hit the ground running, trying to get face-to-face time. Because I think all of this ultimately is the foundation of it. What it's going to stand on as we continue to grow and develop is going to be relationships. And if we're being completely transparent, it's a high turnover industry, which is unfortunate at times, but it's also there's guys going from teams that have previously had and love Teamworks to organizations where they don't. And so, us being able to carry that relationship with guys from one place to the next is a pretty valuable part of what we're doing. The combine is going to be exciting because it's a chance for us to show, in real time, we can have a meeting or we can have dinner the night before the receivers go run the 40, and we can tell you, hey, here's their play speed. Some guys are going to reflect that with what they time, some aren't. Don't necessarily be scared away by the 40 time. And I think having that fresh in guys' minds is an opportunity for them to then say, hey, I might need to circle back and see what Teamworks thinks about that. See what their data shows on this guy that I just watched run a 40 who ran a lot slower than I expected. We'll get a lot of unique perspectives and get a chance to just see where people, where they want us to go. Where can we get better in their mind? And I think Sam touched on it. I think I had lunch with a GM at the Senior Bowl, and he gave me a great line. It was, we're not looking for less tech, but we're not necessarily looking for more tech. We want more information. We don't want more apps, right? They start to get overwhelmed when you got to go 10 different places to find 10 different pieces of information. And so what we're doing and what we're in the process of doing is putting all of our platforms into one single app. And so it's, just imagine a world where your strength coach inputs his numbers, your nutritionist inputs the caloric plan for an athlete, and your sports scientist is inputting the amount of meters covered or yards covered in practice that day, and you're building specific practice plans for one player. But now those three people are all connected instead of working in their own Excel spreadsheets, and everyone's informed, everyone's on the same page. It makes it infinitely easier to have specific plans for every player. So I think that's, where we're continuing to go is just integrating the tools and information that we already have to make it a more seamless experience for our partners to put into action.
We're winding down on this latest episode of the Hour Coaching Network. I'm your host, John Brice of FootballScoop.com, joined by Teamworks executives Brayden Coombs and Sam Curtis. Fascinating insight into the world of Teamworks and the way it's delivering right now in a variety of sports around the globe, but we're specifically talking college and NFL football. Really interesting anecdote that you just shared there, Braden, about how you'll talk with a guy about a receiver's route time versus what a receiver might run in a 40 time and just kind of the nuances there. And sometimes there is more to the data. I want to ask both of you guys because you're obviously enjoying personal success for a great company that's become synonymous with the sport, and you both have referenced the climb. Braden, you talked about fetching coffee, but what's that welcome to the college football or welcome to the NFL moment? Welcome to the world of being the lowest rung on the ladder that you think back to now that keeps you grounded and lets you know, hey, this has been quite a journey, but it's been a journey that's worthwhile. And then, Sam, I'm going to ask you the very same question next.
Man, I would say, I was very fortunate. I started my career with an NFL franchise. I don't know many people that have had that opportunity. I don't take that lightly. I was very blessed. And, I like to think that I made the most of it. I think that an eye-opening moment for me, we were going into the draft, my first full offseason there. The NFL was under lockout. So there was all kinds of unique situations. We were working out quarterbacks at the time. I think we had the fourth overall pick and you couldn't use NFL receivers because of the lockout. So, I was going flying all over the country with Jay Gruden, our offensive coordinator, and there was two or three pro days where I had to go run routes, and I was 18 months removed um, from being a college wide receiver, but I could tell you it leaves fast because you get into your 25th route with, you got one quick break in between, you realize how quickly you can get out of shape. But little things like that, man. I picked AJ Green up from the airport when we drafted him fourth overall and got to coach him for 10 seasons. So those experiences, the relationships, the guys that I met in NFL locker rooms, the guys that I got to coach, the guys that I got to coach with, those are special things. People ask me all the time if I miss it. Of course I miss it. There's things that you'll never replicate in any other profession in the world. Running out onto a stadium that's full of 70,000 people and competing with that level of beyond 100% intensity for 3.5 hours. I don't think you replicate that in many other jobs. The relationships you form in locker rooms and in coaches' offices with a group of guys who are in the bunker together, working together for 120 hours a week. You don't replicate things like that. So of course I miss it, always will. But you find joy in other things that you're doing, and are able to find a little bit more work-life balance. I'm on a 3-year run right now of 8U flag football championships here in Nashville. So I'm getting my competitive fill in different ways and doing it with my boys, who I love dearly and can drop them off at school a couple days a week and then get back to my computer and get ready to go try to dominate football with teamwork. So there's different ways to fill your cup, and I feel like I'm in a good spot here, and I'm surrounded by great people. So feel very fortunate to be here, and I really am very excited about what the future holds for us, and in particular, I'm excited to see a lot of guys in person, see a lot of old friends at the combine next week, and get the ball rolling.
That's awesome about the flag football dominance there in the Music City. What are you terrorizing Green Hills or
Hey,
Belmead, Brentwood? Where are you at? Are you just taking all comers?
we take on all comers. I got my, I had some old Visio files from back in my coaching days. I'm getting ready to get into using our coaching platform to draw my play cards too. We got the no huddle going with the wristbands. We're a tough draw, John.
You need to
Humbly speaking, we're a tough draw.
you got to get that on social media because you're sitting on a content gold mine. I'll tell you. All right, Sam, we heard Braden say after his playing career, he's gone out and run routes, whatever it takes to get the job done. Are you ready to hit a blocking sled for Teamworks to get the job done, or what's your welcome to football moment? Was it did you paint bricks for Butch Jones when it was brick by brick, or what's your moment?
Oh man, there's probably some stories, John, that maybe not a super applicable or maybe appropriate for the podcast, but
Those are the best ones.
yeah, I think about my background and personally, but also professionally, right? Like coming from a small town of 3,000 people in Northwest Tennessee, I think there was of the 42 kids that graduated in my graduating class, there was only a handful of us that went to college, right? So being able to live in Los Angeles and be on a Georgia sideline and being at a Tennessee Kentucky game or a Tennessee Florida game, right? And in 2016, Brice, you were there, right? When we broke the streak and
Sideline
Javon
reporter,
Jennings and
baby.
yeah, the Hail Mary catch at Georgia and all that stuff, right? I feel like I live from a personal standpoint, like every month, every year, there's a holy hell, what are we doing? Like this is unbelievable, right? But it's funny. I think from a professional standpoint and a teamwork standpoint, it really hit home of really what we're doing. Not too far past, I guess, for lack of a better way to put this, but it was college game day. I couldn't tell you what week it was, but about a year ago, we partnered with ESPN, and they use a lot of our data and analytics and metrics for their in-game broadcast and some of their production stuff, like a game day and Scott Van Pelt and things like that. And one morning, I was probably smoking meat or something like that. Shout out, do have a barbecue team, Porky Blinders 901 on the social media channels, but that's a shameless plug. If we're going to talk about 8-year-old flag football, we can talk about some barbecue too, right? But it
I'm
was a
still waiting
Saturday.
on my shipment. So,
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, when you're in Memphis, Brice, you got a place to sleep and a table to eat.
rendezvous ships to me. So I feel like Porky
Well,
Blinders can do the same.
I was maybe about to say something controversial, but there's other ribs in Memphis like the Porky Blinders that you could also try, right? But it was funny. It was one of those Saturday mornings, and I get a picture from one of my buddies that lives in the neighborhood, and he was like, "Hey, don't you work at Teamworks?" And it was a screenshot of Kirk Herbstreit and those guys bringing up a graphic on the live broadcast of data powered by Teamworks. And that was really the first time where I'm like, the world really knows now what Teamworks is and what we're doing, and they're at least aware of it, right? It's not just oh yeah, I work in college football, so I know about Teamworks. The normal insurance salesman down the road knows what Teamworks is, right? And that was kind of my welcome to Teamworks moment. I would say when it really became public facing what we were doing and the impact that we're making, and trusted providers like that that is now forward facing, right? That was a really big. I remember telling my wife we're running inside. I was like, "Look at this." She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, this is. I think this is really cool, right?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm excited for you. All that stuff, right?" But yeah, I'd probably say that for sure.
Well, and it's a slow build, John, because that's not our MO, right? We're not an outward facing company. We don't sell to the public. So it's never been a goal of ours to advertise or to market to the public. And so it's very cool to see it just naturally progressing on its own as the word kind of gets out about what we're doing and what we're building, and you see it on ESPN here and there. But I think that beneath the surface, there's definitely things are bubbling, and there's a murmur, and people are starting to figure it out. And I think, especially as this year in particular progresses, I think people are going to have a much heightened awareness of what we're doing, what we're building, and just how big of a role we're playing, because it's been much more behind the scenes. And we don't have any problem with that, but I do think that it's going to be cool to see people realize how sort of integral we've become with the best sports organizations in the world.
What an incredible visit. I told you guys we'd probably visit 25 to 30 minutes. I think we're tracking at about 45 minutes, which means maybe I did a good job of getting out of the way, or maybe you guys are just such pros. You're that informative. If I left anything out, it means there has to be a volume two of this podcast. But, gentlemen, thanks a bunch for joining us.
Appreciate you having us, Brice.
Thanks for having us, John. This was awesome. Do it again anytime, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot. This has been the latest Our Coaching Network podcast for Sam Curtis and Brayden Coombs of Teamworks. I'm John Brice of FootballScoop.com for the producer, Pat Curran. Until the next one, enjoy this one. Thanks for tuning in.